All right, everyone, we're going to get started. If you could find your seats. Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 11th BITSS annual meeting. I'm Grace Hahn, the program manager for the Berkeley Initiative for Transparency in the Social Sciences. You all probably know this by now, but BITSS works to improve the credibility of science by advancing transparency, reproducibility, rigor, and ethics in research. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. This is our first annual meeting in person since 2019, so we're delighted that you can all be here and to gather in person. I also want to thank the speakers in advance for their remarks. We have such a fantastic program today, and I know I and everybody else, we're very eager to hear you share about the fantastic work that you're doing. Before we dive into the program, I just want to cover a few quick housekeeping items. If you get lost or have any questions at all throughout the day, you can find a SIGA staff member. We'll be wearing red name tags. The bathroom can be found through these doors to the turn right and then turn right again, so just around the corner. Please silence your phones during the events. If you do need to take a call, we ask that you step outside to do so. However, we do encourage you to live tweet the talks and sessions and anything you might find interesting today using the hashtag on the slide. And we have a very exciting program today. It'll be very packed. Lunch will be served about halfway through, and we'll also have a coffee break later in the afternoon, as well as a happy hour reception afterwards. If you're able to, I strongly encourage you to stay for the happy hour. It'll be a great opportunity to network, meet people, discuss some of the great topics today, as well as sharing some great food. And with that, it's my privilege to welcome up Ted Miguel, the faculty director of BITSS and the faculty co-director of SIGA.
Great. Thanks so much, Grace. It's great to be here and really just a pleasure to welcome all of you to the annual meeting for BITSS. We've been around for about a decade, and as I look around the room, I see a few people who are even here at those first couple meetings. What I want to do today is really just reflect on the last decade, reflect a little bit on where we're going, and just get folks who are new to BITSS, familiar with some of our work, and then I'll turn to talking about the program a little bit. Okay. There we go. Great. So let me just say a few words about what we do in the center. There are really three types of activities that we work on that drive what we do. We promote access to open science education, and I'll say a few more words about that, but training and education are really central to what we do. We generate evidence, so meta research, and we also try to strengthen the scientific ecosystem to promote openness and transparency, and really ultimately the credibility and rigor of social science research. So there are these different kind of pillars of our work. You're going to hear about different aspects of our work throughout the day today, and hopefully we can really make connections between your own interests and your organizations and what BITSS is working on. Okay. I think the cursor needs to be moved onto there you go. Great. So just a few words about some of our activities. We really see the process of getting, generating credible evidence and turning it into impact in the real world as having a few different steps or stages. The foundation of all of this, and you can see this in our graphic at the bottom of the pyramid, is changing individual researchers' behaviors and the choices they make about their own scholarship. What I think we have seen over the last decade is that there's been a tremendous amount of progress in changing individual behavior, changing things like the use of pre-registration, pre-analysis plans, and data and code sharing, things that were really fundamental to some of the early work of BITSS. And a decade ago, and I was just talking to Stuart Buck here about the first meeting, 10, 11 years ago, pre-registration, pre-analysis plans, these weren't even terms that people had heard of or knew about in the social sciences just a decade ago. So I think we can really reflect on how much things have changed there. So it's not that there isn't a lot more to do, but there's been a lot of movement in that space. The second sort of step here in the pyramid, and the second way that we're going to make impact in the world is through facilitating larger scale institutional changes and policy changes, thinking through building the kinds of platforms and digital infrastructure that are needed to sustain open science, thinking about journal policy changes. Those are also things that BITSS has been working on with partners over the last decade. Finally, the kind of top part of the pyramid here really speaks to the translation of this evidence that's generated, that's credible, that's generated using open science practices into policy, into impact in the real world. And that's a lot of our focus here today, including in the sessions this morning, is thinking through how the evidence that's generated can translate into policy. There's been work that BITSS has been promoting on reporting guidelines in economics that we'll have a few things to talk about. We've also been promoting the idea of open policy analysis, OPA, which is really the goal of OPA is to bring the best research transparency practices from scholarly research into public policy making. And again, we'll talk a lot about that today. There's still a lot more to do. And we're really, kind of the race is sort of halfway run. There's still a lot more to do in this space, but it is interesting now that we're 10 years in to think about all the progress that has been made. All right. Great. So let me just say a few words about these different legs of the stool for BITSS. I talked about how important open science education was for us. We've had a number of events through the last decade called Research Transparency Training Courses, RT2. Over the last decade, over 400 folks have been trained directly and in person through these RT2 training courses. We've also had a massive open online course that's trained thousands of people. And this has been an important way to start changing practice in the social sciences. Here we have some photos from some of these events in different parts of the world. We're back to having RT2s in person. We've done some virtually over the last couple of years. And the next in-person training course will take place in Berkeley in May. We're very excited about it. Most of the participants in these training courses are advanced graduate students, postdocs, early stage researchers across fields. So, certainly some from my own discipline of economics, but there's scholars from sociology, public health, political science, psychology, et cetera, that have taken part. So it's a really exciting opportunity for younger scholars to connect with others who have common interests, who want to learn the latest techniques and methods in open science. And we usually have a really stellar lineup of speakers. There's a really cool development this year, which is we've received funding from the National Institutes of Aging here in the US, and there'll be a particular focus in the RT2 course this May on aging and health disparities. So again, that's of relevance to people across many different fields, but there'll be some new speakers that we haven't had at past RT2s with expertise on those topics. So again, regardless of interest, I think scholars with interest in open science should participate. Definitely those with health interests and aging interests would really get a lot, I think, out of the training course. So applications are going to open very soon. Please encourage, please apply yourself or encourage colleagues to apply. Oops. Great. Another aspect of BITSS' activities over the last year have been the open research seminars. We've held 4 sessions this fall. This is an attempt. This is virtual. It's on Zoom, but it's really an opportunity for our community to learn about some of the latest developments on open science and research transparency. We've covered a whole range of really cool topics: the life cycle of reproductions, hashed linkages for administrative data sets, different guidelines for journals. We're going to continue this spring with another series of topics. So please check out the open research seminar. And if there are topics of interest to you, participate, share them with colleagues. But there's going to be some very kind of policy relevant work as well. I think maybe the cursor needs to be pressed. There you go. Great, thank you. There's also work that BITSS is promoting in meta research, trying to understand ways to best promote open science practices. And this is, this project is joint work with Fernando Osas de la Guardia here and some colleagues in Norway. We're actually just starting to plan and carry out an RCT that aims to understand the incentives for full reporting in economics based on a sample of studies that have pre-registered on the AEA registry. So there's still a lot we don't know about why scholars make decisions to report all their results, what ends up getting published and not published. So we want to understand the nature of publication bias and how to overcome it. That's something we plan to work on. If you're interested in this topic, I definitely look forward, and Fernando and I look forward to chatting with you in the coffee breaks or lunch, where we can explain what we're doing. We'd love to learn about similar efforts in other fields. Another activity that BITSS has been promoting is encouraging and disseminating preprints, or what are sometimes called working papers, on meta research topics and open science topics. So again, 10 years ago when BITSS started, and the word open science or research transparency wasn't even in the dictionary, there wasn't really an active community in this area. Now there really is an active research community that cuts across traditional disciplinary boundaries of people promoting work on research transparency and really just meta research in general, research on the process of research. In today's session this afternoon, we're actually going to hear a number of really fascinating studies in this space. Meta Archive is a preprint service that BITSS runs, which is a home for new working papers and preprints in this space. There have already been hundreds of papers over the last few years submitted to the series. We're typically getting a couple a week. So if you're working in this area, please submit your preprints and working papers to the series, let people know about it, and just browse the preprints on the Meta Archive server. It's really great to see all the exciting work across disciplines that's getting disseminated through this service. A couple of other things that BITSS has been working on and really moved into a lot in the last few years is building digital infrastructure to promote open science practices. So there's a couple in particular. The first one I'll mention is the Social Science Reproduction Platform, SSRP. The SSRP is meant to provide a standardized and streamlined way for folks who are carrying out computational reproductions to log that knowledge. Very often in classes or when people try to understand research, they go through replication data and try to make sense of the findings that are out there in the community, but their work is typically lost to the research community. It's not recorded anywhere. SSRP provides a streamlined, standardized platform for people to record that knowledge so the community can see it, share it, and we can accumulate knowledge about existing published findings. So just in the last year and a half, we've already collected a lot of different reproductions. It's growing very quickly. And we do see this as a tool that could be very useful for course instructors. Like for myself, I provide an assignment in my PhD course where students have to reproduce existing papers. They can log those reproductions on SSRP. We're going to be hearing from Abel Brodeur of the Institute for Replication and Fernando, who I already mentioned, my colleague at BITSS, later on today about their work in this area. Another platform that BITSS has been supporting is the Social Science Prediction platform. That should be Prediction platform, which has already logged thousands of forecasts of what results will look like in planned studies. We can learn a lot when we understand what the research community thinks is likely to happen, or what policymakers think is likely to happen when a certain program or treatment is implemented. This is very valuable knowledge. It provides, Bayesian priors, you could think of it that way, or just really a sense of what is likely to succeed in the real world. This platform is also taking off with, again, thousands of predictions. Stefano Della Vigna and Eva Vivalt are the PIs on this project. And there will be a forecasting in the social sciences workshop here on campus in October. So if you're interested in forecasting, predictions, how forecasts could inform our work, please check out the SSPP and participate in the workshop. Okay, a few more things, and I'll speed up and really turn it over to our keynote panels and sessions that are coming up. Recently we've been more active in BITSS in advocacy, in promoting open policy analysis, and really the adoption of research transparency standards in the public policy space. With Fernando, we recently published an op-ed in The Hill, really talking in specific terms about how the US government could adopt more open policy analysis approaches in its own work. So this is something we're excited about and really will bear directly on the session that's going to come up right after I finish here. How can we take evidence and move it into impact. How can we take evidence and change policy? The next two sessions will focus on that. Yeah. Okay. That worked. We got it. Great. So let me just briefly talk about the session today. I just have another minute or two just to get you up to speed. So again, thanks for being here. We have an incredible lineup, actually. The morning we're calling keynote session is multiple panels plus a keynote talk. Just such an incredible collection of participants and speakers. I'm going to be handing over to my colleague Fernando for panel 1 on the evidence to policy pipeline and the role of transparency. We have a distinguished group of scholars and researchers here whom Fernando will introduce shortly, but really folks coming from different fields and disciplines who can shed light on this issue. Next will be the second panel, Open Policy Analysis in Government, and we'll talk with high-level policymakers and those involved in reform, both in Chile and the US, on this connection between evidence and high-quality, credible evidence and public policy. And then just before lunch, we'll have Hito Imbens from Stanford for the keynote lecture. In search of the third number, we're all excited to find out what that number is. I know I am. And, again, Hito, as you probably know, is a Nobel Prize winning economist and just an incredible leader in the space of, work on causal inference, econometrics, and data analysis. So great to have him. The afternoon session, just very quickly, has a series of papers and projects on a range of meta research issues. A number of them speak to each other in really fascinating ways. We have folks who have traveled, from multiple countries to be here. I'm very excited to learn from all these speakers. I won't go through them one by one, but before they speak, of course, we'll introduce them and tell you more about their backgrounds for this great collection. And then after a short coffee break, we'll move into the last session on computational reproducibility. We have talks by Christophe Perignon and then Abel Brodeur and Fernando to close out, real discussion. There's been a lot of progress in this area in recent years that we'll be able to survey. And then I will close the day with an open discussion. This is a tradition at BITSS that at the end of our annual meetings, we just open the floor, discuss what's on our minds, talk about as a community what the big gaps are in the field, where we should go, what struck us about the day, and then move forward. So let me just wrap up here. Before we turn it over to the open sessions, we do have a code of conduct at BITSS. We really, hope that we'll all respect each other's opinion, treat each other with the kind of respect that we all deserve. I think hopefully that goes without saying. But everybody has the right to participate in the conference and feel comfortable here. If that isn't the case, let us know what we can do to improve the experience and make sure this is an inclusive and productive exchange. All right, so let me leave it there for now. Just welcoming you all here again to Berkeley. I look forward to the day, and I think I'm going to hand over to my colleague Fernando Osas de la Guardia, who's a project scientist at BITSS. Thank you.